Hello there YouTube, Devin here again, and today I have another video on the pattern 1908 webbing for you. As you've watched the first video on this set of web gear, I get into some of the basic history and show you the configuration of how it was worn for the first part of the war. And now I'm going to show you the configuration how it would be worn for the second part of the war. Now, I apologize for my get-up. It is currently quite cold in here. It's about 50 Fahrenheit, 10 degrees Celsius, somewhere in there, because I'm cheap and I'm not running the heat while I've got decent clothes to wear, so I apologize for my extensively Canadian appearance here. This is my favorite jacket. I wear it all the time, and it's been the subject of some videos. But what I have for you here is the 1908 pattern web gear set up for 1916 through the end of the war. Okay, now in my previous video I had it set up for 1914 to 1916 according to period manuals, and those manuals showed that it wasn't as ergonomic. This is a much more user-friendly setup for as far as components that you need to be able to get at easier than components that you really aren't going to be using all the time. So this was kind of based on soldier feedback. This setup became standard in 1916. Now there was tons of configurations that were non-standard, and this is just the basic infantry pattern. There's different officer patterns, there's different configurations based on however the guy was feeling that day. There's configurations for parade. This is just your basic combat pattern, and this is to the manual. You can find this web gear configured in much different ways, but this is just according to the manual. So the biggest change between the 1914 and 15 to the 1916 update is the large haversack or valise, whatever you want to call it, alright, rucksack, alright, is gone. That's no longer carried. You don't have that anymore, and in its place, the small haversack, which would have been covering your water bottle in the early part of the war, has now been transferred to your back. Okay, much easier to get at this point. Okay, and it carries just the small things you would need: your mess kit, your rain poncho, change of socks, other little accoutrements, your shaving kit, other stuff like that would all be in your small haversack, and you would keep, you know, your great coat and everything else in your large haversack, and that would stay behind the line. So you would not take that with you. Whereas in 1914 and 15, you would. So, and then the mag pouches have stayed the same. They're an instrumental part of holding the gear together, so you really can't like take these off, unfortunately, in a standard infantry environment. What they did do also, though, is they moved the entrenching tool from your left hip to your back, as you can see here, which is a pretty nice place for it because it's relatively comfortable and ergonomic. It doesn't like flap around all that bad. You could still sit down with it and everything. It's not going to get in the way there, and it's not something you need all the time. Whereas when it was here in the early part of the war on your left hip, it blocked you from getting access to your bayonet. Whereas now I can get at it much easier instead of having to fiddle my hand down behind my entrenching tool carrier to hold my scabbard to be able to make sure I could get a good purchase on this bayonet, because you need it for a bayonet this long. This is 18 inches. You can't just like, you can, but it's a lot harder to just pull out from this awkward angle than if you get a second hand on it. So if I show you here to like really quick, if I can get at this a lot easier, I could grab it, I could pull it out, and I could put it on my rifle, or if I need it, I have it. It's easy to get at with two hands. Whereas when the entrenching tool was in the way, it's a lot harder to kind of have to reach over and not be able to like get a hand lower down, and you have to pull it out, and you see it tends to bind. It binds a lot more because of that. And in an emergency, when you need to get your bayonet out, you can't because of its awkward length and everything else like that. So, and the fact that the entrenching tool was in the way. So this is a much more kind of cut down, user-friendly version. We ditched the large pack. The small pack is now on our back. It sits rather high up, just for your little accoutrements, and that's kind of the major changes of the war. You're really just carrying the stuff you don't need all year, and you're ditching that and leaving it behind the lines, and you're taking just the basic necessities, which are going to allow you to be a much more agile, much more comfortable. That's taking a lot of weight off your shoulders too by removing that large pack. It's also getting rid of a lot of the cumbersomeness of this set by getting rid of that large pack and moving the entrenching tool and the haversack around to the back rather than being on the sides. It's going to allow you to fit through stuff a lot easier. It's going to make going shoulder to shoulder with people in the trenches a little easier. You're going to have a lot more room to work with, a lot more ergonomics. And, the weight off your shoulders is pretty big for soldiers too, because there's an old military saying, and it goes back for a great deal of time. And it's still actually a motto of the mountain troopers, and that's ounces equal pounds and pounds equal pain. And every ounce you can get rid of and save is eventually going to make the soldier be able to fight a lot longer before getting fatigued. So, and in World War I, which was a battle of attrition, where everything from ammo to artillery shells to weapons themselves, including soldiers' spirits and energy, were a finite resource. And you're saving a lot of that by moving these components around and taking feedback from the field to improve the soldiers' lives in the equipment you have. So hopefully you guys like this video and you subscribe if you like this sort of thing. There will be more videos on this set coming in the works as far as blancoing, assembly, all that other types of stuff, as well as some other web sets from the First World War making an appearance here in the channel in the future. I was able to afford a lot of this with your guys' donations. Not that I have received all that many of them, but for those of you who have donated, the $50 to $100 that I've received total, it goes a long ways actually for supporting the channel. And if you can't, by all means, that's fine. But if you can afford to give even $1 here and there, that's totally great. I don't have a Patreon or anything because I don't really think my channel's big enough to warrant it, unfortunately. But if you do think I'm worth just $1 or any amount you're willing to give, and it goes a long ways. And if you give a large enough amount, I usually send off a present to you for your donation. So, and you can do that by clicking on the little face icon bubble in the video, and that'll take you to my page. And then at the top where you see playlists, videos, and everything, if you scroll all the way to the right, you get to the About tab. And if you click the About tab, there's a little link that says Donations in there. That goes right to my PayPal, and I like using PayPal because it allows me to keep track of who donated via your emails, because you need to have an email to have a PayPal account, and it allows me to get every single cent of what you guys donate. There isn't anybody taking fees or anything out of that. So I appreciate you all very much, all you subscribers, those of you new and old, and all the veterans in there that give comments all the times. I appreciate your guys' feedback. If there's anything you would like me to change on the channel, anything you would like to see, or anything you would like to suggest, I'm much more open to that than somebody just leaving a thumbs down or a comment that's just like, this is stupid. That doesn't help me improve the channel or fix it at all. So please give me some constructive criticism, give me some feedback, everything else in the comments, and I will do my best to answer those and address those. So hopefully I see you all in the next video, and hopefully that next video comes along shortly. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.